let's go. Woo! Maximum effort. Alrighty then, my royal chums. It is I, Daniel. You may call me the pop culture dude. And it's been a while since I made a full-length review on my YouTube channel after the Knuckles series review that I did on this channel just to please the Sonic fans and to express my thoughts about the series. But now, I'm going to be talking about some Deadpool and Wolverine. So, as if you guys should already know, I've already seen the movie pretty early. I've watched it with my bro Gabriel, I watched it with my buddy Alex, and we all had a good time watching the movie. So, what do I think of Deadpool and Wolverine? Is it truly the Messiah, the Marvel Jesus, just to save the MCU after the Phase 4, Phase 5 multiverse sagas being very directionless and very mid, dare I say? Or is this movie actually going to be something very special? Well, in my personal opinion, Deadpool and Wolverine is one of the best MCU movies since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Spider-Man No Way Home. So that makes 3 good post-Endgame MCU movies. Spider-Man No Way Home was the most nostalgic, Guardians Volume 3 is the most emotional one, while Deadpool Wolverine is by far the funniest one. And warning, as you can check by the thumbnail, yes, there will be spoilers, so if you do not want to get spoiled for Deadpool Wolverine, what you're doing, you're going to see the leaks everywhere on the internet, whatever you do, spoiler warning, and tres, dos, uno. So, for watching Deadpool Wolverine, since it is tied into the Fox X-Men movies, tied in with Deadpool, tied in with some elements of the MCU, like the Loki TV series. Now, the biggest question is, what are the homework requirements of watching Deadpool and Wolverine? Well, it's pretty simple if you don't think too much about it. Deadpool Wolverine is a direct tie-in to the last 2 Deadpool movies featuring Canada's favorite perfect idiot, just like the first movie, Ryan Reynolds. So, you can watch Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, and you can watch Deadpool Wolverine just to understand the Deadpool character from those old movies, but also him incorporated to the MCU. As for Wolverine himself, played by the legendary Hugh Jackman, Logan, his last time playing as Wolverine for his final performance around that time is very important to the continuity of Deadpool and Wolverine, but for any casual that is new to Wolverine, I don't recommend watching Logan first because that represents the closure of his ending for his time for playing Wolverine around the Fox Marvel era. So I say, like, maybe if you are new to Wolverine, at least watch like the first 3 X-Men movies just to get the character, and then you can skip ahead to, I don't know, watch Days of Future Past, which that's a good movie, and then go straight to Logan. But by the way, I forgot to mention this, I love Logan, and I thought it was, despite its R-rated gore and all this brutal violence, I think it's a beautiful closure for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine around that time. And we thought he was done. But then when Ryan Reynolds came along, and then director Sean Levy came along, and then Disney bought the rights to Fox, which they used to own the X-Men movies, and Fantastic Four were like, so how are we going to make Deadpool 3 a corporate to the MCU? Should we make it PG-13? Nah, that's going to piss off the fan base. Well, we got to keep it rated R, which that's the one thing that makes the last 2 Deadpool movies so entertaining, because Deadpool is a shameless R-rated merc with a mouth douchebag that shamelessly kills bad guys with all the blood and gore and makes fun of them, mocks them with his break the fourth wall type of humor, which makes the character so damn entertaining. And as always for this movie, Ryan Reynolds continues to shine as Deadpool. I mean, despite being there for only just playing the role for like 3 big budget movies, like, it doesn't show his versatility as an actor in this role that is straight from the comics. Like, he co-wrote this movie, he co-produced it, but also the fact that he's a businessman for over his alcoholic drink and Mint Mobile, it just shows Ryan Reynolds, like, his versatility, not just as an actor, but, you know, as a businessman, or in case being versatile as a writer and a producer. So he does the best for what he can, and he easily carries this movie with all the comedy. And speaking of which, how R-rated is Deadpool and Wolverine? I'm going to be honest, since this is the first R-rated Marvel movie approved by the House of Mouse, Disney themselves were like, yeah, we're going to keep this rated R. Just do whatever you want. Just put some blood and gore, make a sexual innuendo joke, just go all out. And I'm like, that's what they did. They just let Ryan Reynolds and director Sean Levy cook. Like, literally, I mean, no joke, literally Deadpool said that line, like, let this man cook. So, you know, keeping up with the Gen Z slang, you know what I mean? But either way, it is bloody, it is gory, which I will debate. I don't think it's as gory as the first 2 Deadpool movies. Dare I say not as gory as Logan? I would say it is bloody, it's still violent. You still get, like, you know, haha, sexual innuendo joke, haha, adult joke that kids will not understand and adults will just fly over their heads, and then we start laughing at it just because it's so damn funny. But I say this is like the most tame version of R-rated that I can think of for Disney's first attempt for its R-rated just to go in its first R-rated MCU movie. So either way, all the jokes from Ryan, from the jokes from Ryan Reynolds, it just pretty lands for every single one. I wish I could name a couple ones, but there are a lot of jokes that, since break the fourth wall humor, there's a lot of jokes that go straight to roasting Fox, roasting Disney. He literally comes up to the camera by saying, "Suck it, Fox, I'm going to Disneyland," which I thought that was pretty funny when everyone just laughed at that. And Kling, another Disney joke by saying, "Pegging isn't new, but pretty sure it is for Disney," which, once again, small little innuendo jokes, it just flies over your head. So what's the idea of Deadpool and Wolverine? So they make it clear that Deadpool in the Fox X-Men universe lives there, stays there, and people are concerned, since they're bringing back Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, since he played this iconic role for 9 movies for 17 years, since 2000 to 2017, and he had a great closure in Logan, which is, in my opinion, one of the most heartbreaking emotional endings ever, that still clicks into my mind to this day. And a lot of people are upset, wait, they're gonna bring him back? It's are they gonna bring that Wolverine back from the dead and then just completely just ruined the purpose of what Logan was supposed to be for Wolverine's closure, which in a way they didn't retcon the events of Logan because that movie's important, but I kind of expected this in a way since it is half a Deadpool movie. He digs up the cores of Wolverine's adamantium skeleton, and literally you get to the TVA agents, which, yes, they are from the Disney Plus Loki series. And now the biggest question is, do you need to watch the Loki series to understand the context of the multiverse saga and the TVA? I have to do Marvel homework. Please stop oversaturating with so much content, Marvel. But the real answer is, surprisingly, no. You don't need to watch Loki to understand the context of Deadpool Wolverine. I mean, yeah, sure, they'll drop a reference by saying, "Hey, look, it's that smoke monster alive from Loki Season 1, Episode 5, which I like that joke that Deadpool says. But they explain for what the TVA is, and they explain, what it does for the time paradox and different timelines being the sake of the continuity. So you don't need to watch the series, which, if I'm going to be honest, I'm not really, the biggest fan of the Loki series, and I didn't care much about it outside of the continuity reasons. But the only thing I did care was about that Owen Wilson was in the MCU, which I wish that he wouldn't be "Wow, I'm talking to Deadpool. He said an F word. Oh, wow." It could have been something fine like that, but it is what it is. They just did the best of what are the most appropriate characters from the TVA timeline. But the TVA is basically the MacGuffin of how did Deadpool end up to the MCU, because in the beginning of the movie, Wade Wilson, despite, wearing a wig to staple on his head, he's working as a car salesman in a car dealership with his buddy Peter, which is the fat mustache dude from Deadpool 2, and he is done. He doesn't want to be the merc in the mouth, and he's still trying his best to, not cuss in front of the kid's family, which I thought that was pretty funny. But as time moves on, Peter kind of encourages Deadpool to just put on the mask and the suit, but then the TVA starts to follow him, and surprisingly, it's Wade Wilson's birthday. Then you got all the side characters from the first, second movie, from Deadpool's girlfriend, Vanessa, Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Blind Owl, which she does have funny moments. So basically, almost everyone except for Cable and Domino and that Russell kid, they're not involved in this movie. So either way, the side characters for the last 2 Deadpool movies are there, but, as expected, they're not going to have that much screen time. It kind of reminds me when Spider-Man No Way Home did the exact same thing, where you got, the OG side characters from Tom Holland's movies, and then they move on to the characters that everyone in the audience cares mostly to see about, which are the multiversal variants, which I think this movie in live action has done a really good job of how they utilize, how does the Fox X-Men timeline that Deadpool is from tie in with the MCU, with the Loki TVA being a part of it, without the requirement of watching a Loki TV show. Because like I said, in terms of viewing requirements, I recommend watching the last 2 Deadpool movies, and if you do know the character of Wolverine, Logan is definitely the most important one to watch. But like I said, if you're new to the character of Wolverine, just watch at least the older X-Men movies just to get the idea of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. But the reason why Deadpool got sent, because since that Wolverine from his universe is dead, and what happens when you don't have an anchor just to carry your universe, which is kind of a meta commentary of, hey, you don't have Hugh Jackman, who's your biggest star of the biggest franchise. What are you going to do? Your franchise is a flop. No one's going to care. And just to quote Thanos, I hope they remember you. Basically, like I said, it's kind of a meta commentary by saying, yeah, if you get rid of one of your biggest stars of your franchise, then without that star power and without the creative direction, your franchise is just doomed to fail. It's totally cooked. like, dare I say it. So that's why Deadpool and this British time paradox guy, who is super goofy as hell, by the way, just tells it by saying like, oh, they just watch the timeline, and he shows Deadpool the entire MCU, like screenshots of the Avengers and Thor and Captain America. You've seen it in the first trailer, and Deadpool's just saying like, I am Marvel Jesus. Like, literally, metaphorically speaking, Deadpool is trying to save the MCU. Well, not really saving the MCU, but trying to save the Fox Marvel verse, since basically Deadpool and Wolverine is basically the No Way Home of the Fox Marvel movies, and we're gonna get to that why. So once with Deadpool, you know, more quirky back and forth wall jokes, which, like I said, so much of it flies, where he used Wolverine's dead body from the Logan X verse in the Snow Fortress with the TVA. This whole opening sequence of playing and sings bye 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 bye. It's like, man, never would expect an NSYNC song just be playing when Deadpool's killing people in R-rated bloody gore fashion in a Disney-produced Marvel movie. It's hilarious, as what you wanted to see in a Deadpool movie. Which, by the way, the songs in this movie, absolute bangers. Like, for instance, they play Back to the Future's Power of Love, which I'm like, I get it, time travel. There's a Green Day song that's playing in the mid-credits. The list goes on and on, but I'm just saying the Deadpool Wolverine soundtrack is a banger. They even play The Greatest Showman in one bit where Deadpool and Wolverine are fighting in the car, and even the part where they're even fighting on the Honda minivan, they literally play Grease's "You're the One I Want." It's like, I can just listen to the soundtrack all day long. But either way, the reason why Deadpool needs to find a Wolverine variant, and he travels to the MCU, and there are many different Wolverine variants. They're all played by Hugh Jackman, and they are comic accurate ones, from the eye patch, the crucified one. There's even one where he's kind of like high accuracy, where he's meant to be 5'4", which I thought that was kind of hilarious, of how the way they try to make his height more comic accurate. And there was one that got my jaw dropping, where we see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in the iconic brown and yellow suit, and when his claws come in, you see Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, only just for like 10 seconds. It's like, man, if it's for budget reasons, it's like, man, that was the closest thing to see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine facing the Hulk in a movie. I mean, it kind of sucks, because I guess due to budget reasons, or the fact they don't want to lean too much on the cameos, which I will talk about the cameos, by the way. But I'm like, man, we could have had that, even if it's not in a movie, but at least for 1 minute to see a Wolverine facing the Hulk. But I'm like, man, missed opportunity. But I will admit, like, even though I love the fact that every Wolverine variant is played by Hugh Jackman except for one, which is a fan casting. Remember when fans wanted John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange 2, but then he got trends of blue spaghetti? This time, it's none other than the former Man of Steel himself, Henry Cavill, or in this case, what did Deadpool call? I think he calls him the Calverine, where that's a popular fan casting that they thought he would play Wolverine for the MCU, and then he just kicked Deadpool's ass out of the loop, and then after that, Deadpool just find the Wolverine variant that you see in the trailer, where it's the one that, once again, played by Hugh Jackman, which, I forgot to talk about his performance. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, as always, can't believe it took 24 years of his career, and the man, this Aussie, is 55 years old, mate, and he is still packing, probably more packed than I am. He, like, no pun intended, Hugh literally jacked himself up for this role once again with over 6,000 calories. But I will admit this, I'm glad that this movie utilizes the more comic book accuracy that the Fox X-Men Marvel movies never did, but the MCU did, with not just with all the comic accurate Wolverine variants, but even for this Wolverine, where Deadpool tag teams with this Wolverine, who is basically bitter, who basically let his entire world down, where all of his fellow mutants, his fellow X-Men is dead, and that's why he dons the iconic yellow and blue suit, just to honor his fallen fellow X-Men that died from his world. And Deadpool thinks that this Wolverine, like, well, since this Wolverine, well, basically all of his friends, all his teammates, they're all dead, so maybe you can help me go save my universe. So then most of my, like, basically, in other words, his F word, his family doesn't fade away, and that's why Deadpool needs another Wolverine variant. But the Wolverine's like, I don't roll with that crap. So then that's where it leads to a cool action sequence where the TVA sent both Deadpool and Wolverine into the void, and it has plenty of Easter eggs where you see the 20th Century Fox logo put down, which is pretty funny, because, you know, that's how Disney, on the other hand, decides to, like, well, we bought the rights to Fox, and the Fox X-Men Marvel movies are pretty much dead at this point. And once when you get to the trailer, where you get to the action fight sequence, I like how Deadpool plays that by saying, like, get ready for this fight, nerds, by saying, like, yep, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. This is why we reserve our seats to see Deadpool and Wolverine fight, an R-rated action by using a baby knife, using the claws, like Wolverine pouncing on Deadpool. I'm like, ah, man, I'm feeling so, like what Deadpool says, I'm feeling soaking wet right now. Or in this case, I'm touching myself tonight, but we're going to blur that out. So, after when they got their fights, that's where we get to, you know, the No Way Home aspects. We get to the multiversal cameos. Like, for an instance, there's a certain one cameo that's about to pop up, but then we got introduced to side X-Men mutant villains. Like, one of them was Sabretooth from the original X-Men, which you see in the trailer. You've seen with the fire guy. What's his name? Prio from X2, X-Men 3? I don't know. The guy that just takes away the fire. You see the Toad guy. But the biggest cameo that pops up is none other than Buzz Lightyear himself, Chris Evans. Yes, Chris Evans is back in the MCU, but not as Steve Rogers as Captain America, where Deadpool was literally about to say the line, Avengers, and then Chris Evans says, flame on! He's not playing Captain America, he's playing the Human Torch, aka Chris Evans' first Marvel role in the old Fox Fantastic Four movie before he was cast as Captain America. And bro, he's already flying up to the flames as Human Torch, but then this Prime is like, no, I'm gonna take your flames away. And then Chris Evans hit his balls on the billboard and all that. So I like the fact that he kept his hair and he kept the beard in typical old Chris Evans fashion. So I'm like, man, that was hilarious. Like, even though Chris Evans does not want to return as Captain America, but he said he won't be against it coming back as the Human Torch. But with this cameo, at least playing this iteration of the Human Torch is more like Chris Evans playing himself. But at the exact same time, it shows more of his comedy range, since, you know, Captain America is more of a serious character, while Human Torch, he can be more comical. And this time, Captain America says language, but now in this movie, he says a lot of F-bombs and basically a lot of, you know, cuss words and dirty jokes that you can name with the alphabet. So then Deadpool and Wolverine got captured, and then they go to this dead Ant-Man corpse, and then we get introduced to the main villain, Cassandra Nova, aka the sister of Professor Charles Xavier. But then the one thing I did not expect of this is when Deadpool called out what Chris Evans, Human Torch, aka Johnny Storm, was saying of talking all the crap and roasting Cassandra Nova, and she literally just snapped all of his guts and his flesh, and then after that, his corpse and his liver and his organs dead. It's like, damn, what is with Marvel killing all these Fantastic Four variants, from John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange 2, and then Chris Evans' Human Torch dead? Why couldn't they just kill off Michael B. Jordan's Human Torch in that awful Fan-Four-Stick movie? Like, well, I'm surprised they didn't even bring any, like, Fan-Four-Stick variants. Like, I don't even know why they decided not to do that. But either way, man, they really hate the OG Fantastic Four variants until, I don't know, the new Marvel version of the MCU with Patrick Pascal with the new cast in a different timeline. But either way, we get to the point about the villain. So my thoughts on Cassandra Nova, like, aside from being the sister to Professor X, I will say this. She's not a top tier villain by saying like, oh, I like this villain. Like, she's well written, she's sympathetic. Like, she's not Thanos, she's not, dare I say, Loki, not Killmonger, not the Vulture, dare I say Green Goblin, No Way Home. Yes, I'm counting that too. But her motivation's pretty solid, where she got put into the void when Professor Charles Xavier does not have like any like the empathy towards her. But I will admit, her powers are so screwed up. Like, how the way that she just put the eyelids on Deadpool's face just to not just mind manipulate, but just go to like to the inner demons and the inner pain for Wade Wilson's quote-unquote breakup with Vanessa, who's always been his girlfriend since the first two movies. And then he also did, like, the villain did the same thing for Wolverine, just going to, like, Logan's trauma of letting all of his ex-mutants down. It's like, I'm just saying, the powers are so messed up of how the way they're just, let me just put my fingers up on your nose and put it up onto your mind. So either way, I wouldn't say she's the best villain. She's memorable, but I wouldn't say, like, oh, this is a top-tier villain. She's alright. Like, I feel like there's, like, some missed opportunities just for me to take this villain seriously. But however, at least, like, in the context of the plot, she is antagonistic enough just to face off pretty much the main cast of not just Deadpool and Wolverine, but pretty much, like, for the rest of the multiverse and the void, where we get to the Cloud Monster Live that just eats a variant and then you're just gone forever. But however, the dynamic of Deadpool and Wolverine, once when they got their fights, is basically like Marvel's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which Ryan Reynolds took the inspiration for that for one of his comedy movies. But I like that when they start talking about more about themselves. But even though as enjoyable this movie is, just like the Deadpool movies and just like the Wolverine movies, they never lose the core of let's make the time just to like not just have some character develop, but also have some emotional in-depth drama for what's holding back from not just Wade Wilson's motives just to overcome for what he's not going to regret in life, not saving his universe and saving his family. And same goes for Wolverine, just trying his best just to be the last remaining mutant. But even though he's done with that crap, man, like he doesn't even want to like have the enjoyment or have the thrills to fight for anything else because he follows no purpose. But Deadpool encourages Wolverine by saying, in my universe, like you were like the X-Men, man. It's like, well, that's why I need you, because you're like the OG hero. You're like the GOAT. And then Wolverine's like, go F yourself. So, like I said, it does becomes like baffling between both of them. But that's what I like about it. You got the straight man who's more serious, and you got the comic relief guy. So that's why their dynamic just works so well. And then even despite their fights and the bloodbath fights over the Honda car, thanks to another Ryan Reynolds variant called Nice Pool, where he has good looking hair. He doesn't look like a testicle with cancer all over. He's just rocking the Nicolas Cage Con Air haircut, where we get to introduce to the most adorable, dare I say ugly, but adorable dog sidekick, Dogpool, Mary Poppins. You got the small little dog variant that's been marketed everywhere around the movie, which the main Deadpool wants to keep it, but Nice Pool doesn't want to take it. So in order just to get them a ride in the Honda, that's where they went off to. But after when Wolverine and Deadpool have their fight over the Grease song, that's where we get to the bigger cameos. And these are the ones that are, if you are a diehard fan of the Fox Marvel movies, they brought back Jennifer Garner's Elektra. Yes, Jennifer Garner's Elektra from the Ben Affleck 2003 Ben Affleck movie where he plays the Daredevil, where Jennifer Garner's Elektra has the iconic Evanescence like fighting montage of "Wake Me Up Inside." You know what I'm talking about. And also she got her own film. Also, Wesley Snipes' Blade, aka Blade, was arguably the first Marvel movie hit in the 90s before 2000's X-Men and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in 2002. So they brought back Wesley Snipes' Blade, and also a casting of a character that never happened in the Fox X-Men movies, but Disney made it happen. Channing Tatum as Gambit. Like, they did the boy so right on the comic accuracy, but let's be honest, like, as cool as he looks, he was definitely played for less for his belated French Caucasian accent. So as hilarious as it is, gotta give respect to Ryan Reynolds, the director, and the crew, just to, like, you know, those missed opportunities for Channing Tatum as Gambit to come through. And I think the most important cameo, she may not have that much screen time compared to the other ones. Well, I argue that she probably might have some more, but I feel like the most important one of them all, especially since she's tied to Wolverine, it's none other than Laura, aka X-23, aka the clone daughter of James Howlett Logan, aka the Wolverine if you watch the movie Logan. So clearly in the events of Logan, it's the same Laura from that movie, and she already has to been through a lot, already been through fighting through most of these guys that tries to track her down in that movie, and the fact that she lost her father, the Wolverine from her universe, and the fact that she's grown up and gotten older. I like that she talks with this Wolverine variant, like, even though it's not the same Wolverine that she knows, but she knows that she reminds her a lot, like, she thinks that Wolverine reminds her a lot about the old Wolverine that basically protected her life when she was in danger of getting tracked by all these bounty hunters in Logan. Like, even Wolverine just had that one talk at the fire camp scene where he's like, "Trust me, kid, I ain't no hero." And then Laura was like, "You've always been the wrong one," but at the exact same time, she definitely believes that there is hope for this Wolverine just to have a chance, not just to, number one, not just to have an emotion to empathy, just to protect others, but at the exact same time, just find the purpose. So I like that speech that Laura and Logan have at the campfire. And to be honest, like, it's pretty wholesome that Hugh Jackman and the actress Daphne Keane had a really nice reunion. Like, sure, there were the highlights of Logan, and even though I wish they would have more time to get more in depth with that, which that's one of my personal complaints about it, but regardless, it was a little nice reunion. Even later by the end of the movie, they get to reunite by the end, which I thought that was nice. But then this was a really cool action sequence where you got, I guess, the Fox Marvel heroes assembling out of the Honda, from Wolverine to Deadpool to Gambit to Blade to Elektra to even Laura, and they have like the sick like team up shot and a bloody bath and facing all the mutants. But then when Cassandra Nova took an item from Doctor Strange's artifacts and the time stones. That's where Deadpool Wolverine jumps to the portal. They went back to the car dealership where Peter was, and they got to find a way just to save the Fox X-Men universe. And then we get some more cameos. Remember that we see the Wolverine variants, we get to the Deadpool variants, and it's crazy, man. It's like, if you can think about the Spider Society and Across Spider-Verse, that's what it is. It's the Spider Society, but for Deadpool variants, where you got Lady Deadpool, who's played by Ryan Reynolds' wife, which, yeah, to be fair, this movie also makes fun of their significant others from the main stars. Like, Ryan Reynolds makes a joke where he's getting too close to Wolverine, where he's like, don't tell Blake about it, which is basically the wife of Ryan Reynolds, and make a joke about Hugh Jackman's divorce. Even one time where Blade explains why Ben Affleck's Daredevil is not with Jennifer Garner's Elektra, because he basically died just like Magneto. And even Elektra's like, oh, that's fine. It's like, damn, that's kind of like a self-inside joke because they divorced. But either way, you just gotta watch the movie to get it. So outside that, we got Lady Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds' wife, and there's a cowboy Deadpool. And when I recognize that actor's voice, I'm like, no way. It's Matthew McConaughey, where he goes, all right, all right, all right. I was not expecting him just to voice Deadpool in a cowboy outfit, but either way, it was funny. Like, these Deadpool corpse and all these clones came out of the portal. There's a kid pool, there's a head pool, there's even a baby Deadpool out of nowhere, and they all try to kill not just Deadpool Wolverine, but a reunion with the dog pool, the nice guy Ryan Reynolds, and the good-looking Ryan Reynolds Deadpool variant doesn't have any mutation powers where he can regenerate, so he can easily die. And then just the OG Deadpool grabs that other good-looking Deadpool by saying, just say it with me, I will live. Boom. Head gets exploded, it gets dead. By Willman, the most badass moment in the movie is when you get what you saw in the trailer of Madonna's Like a Prayer, where Deadpool and Wolverine are walking, life is a mystery. And the most badass moment is when Hugh Jackman's Wolverine puts on the iconic masked cow. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm so glad Marvel for once doesn't over CG a mask over an actor's head. It's very prosthetic, it's very realistic, and I figured, how does Hugh Jackman even see with those white eyes covering his head? And like what Deadpool make a joke about, where he's kind of like Batman, but he's more brighter. But however, he looks sick. Like, 24 years, man. It took this long to put that cow in that suit. But then Deadpool and Wolverine fight all the Deadpool courts in a hilarious way all over the city, all the buses and all the blood, all this happening, where they play Life is a Mystery, it's like a prayer, I'll take you there. And then after, when all the Deadpool corps have been defeated, they all got the same power like Deadpool Wolverine. They can regenerate after when they get injured, defeated, or get stabbed. But once when we get to Peter, where he's wearing a Deadpool suit, and they're like, hey, we're going Peter, Peter, Peter. And then they show support of Deadpool Wolverine, where the villain Cassandra Nova is trying to like wipe around the timeline of the Fox X-Men universe with the time paradox. And then Deadpool Wolverine were like, they need to sacrifice one another to save this universe. It's either Deadpool dies forever or Wolverine dies forever. But I like to talk that Wolverine's like, I got nothing else. You got someone to take care of. But then when Deadpool decided to lock himself over by saying, what the hell are you doing this? And then Deadpool's like, I am Marvel Jesus, just joking around. And then when Deadpool was about to sacrifice himself in the time paradox, and basically where all the machines were about to clash, and his universe was about to fade away, it was about to go, extinct, like reduced to atoms. Like, Wolverine was trying his best to bust in so then Wolverine could help save the universe together with Deadpool, and not only just that, for not Deadpool to die alone. And that's where I feel like that's the thematic theme right there. It's not all about going over grief or trying to like save your past. It's all about, hey, ride or die, bros. Even if we agree to disagree, like, if I'm riding along with you, I'm dying along with you. So Wolverine comes in, hold Deadpool's hand, all jacked up, glowing with the six-pack abs, and a very emotional, dare I say, church core cover of Like a Prayer, where it goes, life is a mystery. It goes flashbacks to Wolverine and his speech with Laura at the campfire. It goes flashbacks to Wade Wilson underneath the Deadpool mask about his loss and all the tragedy that he's been through. But not only just that, but possibly his close friends, his close family just fading away. And it flashbacks to Wade Wilson with his girlfriend Vanessa in the first Deadpool movie and the second movie. Like, the first movie, when he got cancer, got the powers, all he could think of was Vanessa. And I will admit, it got emotional for me. Like, literally in the theater, I was like, man, you're hitting me in the feels. Don't make me cry. Get back in there, Tim. Get back in there. That's what I personally feel. And then the tear was about to shed when Wolverine was telling Deadpool before he was about to kill Cassandra Nova earlier in the movie, where it's more like the speech by saying, like, he told me that I was the X-Men, like, you're the X-Men. And I'm like, hell yeah, man. And then later on, they take the sacrifice. The villain just had like an orgasm, the way how she was looking. Boom, she dies. Then the TVA British guy's like, well, they were damn heroes. And then Deadpool's like, we've been resurrected. And then the British TVA guy's like, come on, I thought you all were dead. And then you got that same black chick that was from the Loki series thinking that, and then I like how Deadpool breaks the fourth wall. I'm like, come on, it just took like a Deadpool and a Wolverine just saved the universe while we're hearing Madonna in the background. And then after that, TVA British guy got escorted out when Peter Poole just came over, and then they have their defense for Deadpool Wolverine. Wolverine just to cover his 55-year-old Jackman abs, covered with the TVA jacket. Deadpool and Wolverine, what do they do after that? They decide to eat shawarma, just like the Avengers, and they joked about it. But then they chill about in the Fox X-Men universe, where Deadpool's universe is safe. Wolverine redeemed his arc of actually having a purpose, having the empathy to care not just for Deadpool, but for people that actually give respect towards him, which Wolverine just let that down throughout the whole movie. And then by the end of the day, Wolverine was going to be like, so long, kid. And then he just moves away. And then Deadpool's like, hey, yo, Logan, I think you might have a crash to like place so you could stay along with us. So then Deadpool introduced Wolverine to everyone, to Blind Al, to even the dog as well. Laura reunites with Logan, which I thought that was nice. And after when Logan tells Wade to reunite with Vanessa, and it seems like their relationship is going back to where it was. And I love how the movie ends perfectly with Deadpool's mask and Wolverine's mask at the end, where they play the song, ah, you're all that I need. It's like, you know, typical Deadpool fashion when it comes to the song. So the ending was very bittersweet. And then, for the very first time, they play a Green Day song in the Marvel end credits, where it reminds me of Avengers Endgame, where they did like a heartfelt tribute to the OG Avengers. It was kind of the same thing, where it shows behind the scenes footage of not just Hugh Jackman or Ryan Reynolds, but all behind the scenes of the Fox Marvel movies, from X-Men to Fantastic Four to Deadpool to even Elektra and all those other movies. And it's kind of like a heartfelt tribute where you hear Green Day hearing, I hope you have the time of your life. And then it goes to a post-credit scene for Deadpool trying to make sure that, just to expose that thinking that he got Chris Evans, Johnny Storm killed, of saying all the words that Johnny Storm privately wrote about Cassandra Nova before Cassandra Nova just takes her away. It exposes the clip where Deadpool's in the TVA. We see Chris Evans, Johnny Storm saying the exact words that Deadpool told Cassandra Nova before Johnny Storm dies. And it was just a silly gag. So either way, I'm glad that this movie, like, it utilizes the MCU, but it doesn't, like, treat it like, oh, this is the next episode of this big scale Avengers level movie. So I'm glad that it decides to, like, ignore that. And I will admit, as much as I do enjoy this movie, like I said, the villain, I do have issues with the villain. Like, she is memorable, but she's not like a third-dimensional complex character that I can root for and understand. But she is at least threatening enough to the main characters, which, okay, that's at least decently enough. The pacing, however, for this movie, it goes like way too quick. So that's why I mean, like, some moments with Wade, with all of his family, including with Vanessa, including the moments where Logan's talking about Laura. That's why I feel like some of the pacing could be a little slowed down so we can have more in-depth moments, which I think Deadpool makes a joke about the runtime. Like, you know, people are more accustomed to longer runtime since we got like 3-hour movies and like in the last recent movies that we got. But I just felt like there could have been a bit more that could have had like a bit more time and depth with. And as for the cameos, they definitely are good. And I will say this, they're not as iconic as Spider-Man No Way Home, but at least they're more serviceably satisfying than what Doctor Strange 2, where they just nerf every single cameo. Like, some of the cameos in this movie lived, and some just didn't, just for laughs or just for the sake of, well, they just weren't meant to be taken that seriously. So either way, like, despite some of its flaws, and I do believe that they do a good job of the R rating, but I feel like there's some moments that might be a bit too tamed at moments like that. And that's one of the things I just feel like there's like some issues with the movie. Like, I feel like the biggest criticisms that I will give to Deadpool Wolverine is like, if you're a casual or an MCU hater, then you're gonna have a hard time enjoying this movie. But if you love Deadpool, love Wolverine, love the MCU, love the Fox Marvel movies, and everything when it's all coming to happen, then you will have a great time, which I had a great time with me and the boys. So Deadpool Wolverine, it's definitely one of the better Marvel movies. I'm not going to say like, oh, Deadpool Wolverine saved the MCU. I definitely say this movie is in the step in the right direction of what the MCU should like take notes, not just like, oh, make a big scale score. Just make, yes, put on your typical Marvel connections, MCU Easter eggs, references and all that, but keep the emotional core of not just for your main characters, but for the development of their arcs and their pain and their failures and their flaws, what they have to go through, despite the odd couple dynamic of Deadpool Wolverine. And like I said, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, great chemistry as always. They've carried this movie. The marketing for the movie's insane, so gotta give credit to Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, the director, Sean Levy, including Kevin Feige that made this possible, including the cast and crew that put all their effort and time just to be a part of this movie and work for it. So that's why I think Deadpool Wolverine and truly succeeded my expectations on that. Like, it follows the trend that Avengers Endgame was a love letter to the old MCU movies. Spider-Man No Way Home is a love letter to the past Spider-Man movies. Deadpool and Wolverine is a love letter to not just Deadpool and Wolverine, but the Fox Marvel movies. So it's definitely be serviceable for the fans, and at the exact same time, it tries its best not to be leaning too much on the continuity, even though, yes, it is required for some viewing for some of the solo movies, but it's not like too much homework just to catch up with the latest Marvel projects. So I will say this, Deadpool Wolverine is not in my top 5 because I still prefer other MCU movies like Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Captain America Civil War, Guardians Volume 3, the list goes on, including the first Iron Man movie. However, this movie's definitely like somewhere in my top 10. Like, it's definitely good, which I might make a tier list live stream with my boys. But however, Deadpool Wolverine, in terms of ranking the Deadpool movies, I still prefer the first Deadpool movie just because I prefer the simplicity origin story of that movie, and it's 100% fully on Deadpool as a character rather than just, you know, the plot just being tied in with the character. Like, Deadpool Wolverine is still a good movie, but I do definitely think it's better than Deadpool 2 because at least there's like a tangible attachment to not just the characters, but also from what the story's going through without some subplots that aren't necessary for long. So I just put Deadpool 1, Deadpool Wolverine, and Deadpool 2 in the ranking. And as for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, it's not my favorite performance because I think his best performance is in Logan, but I definitely say it's definitely one of the most enjoyable performances, especially wearing that iconic yellow blue suit in the movie and obviously bantering out with Deadpool and everything else. So in my final verdict, I give Deadpool Wolverine an 8 out of 10. It's a good movie. It's good. I won't say it's on a high ranking like other MCU movies, but it's definitely one of the better MCU movies. So what do you guys think of Deadpool Wolverine? What's your favorite scene? What's your favorite cameo? What do you expect from it? What do you like or didn't like? And that's all I have to say about my 30-minute ramble about Deadpool Wolverine. But all I can say is maximum effort, LFG, Deadpool Wolverine, summer blockbuster movie of the year. So stay tuned for my other uploads for later this summer. I'll definitely see you guys in the next video. Take care now. Bye-bye then. Or in the words of NSYNC, bye-bye.